Alright, so really huge news for Cyberpunk fans. What's up everybody, welcome back to some more gameplay and news regarding Cyberpunk. Today we have a ton of details to go over, of course thanks to another blog post over from CD Projekt Red and a personal explanation and apology from one of the co-founders, Marcin Iwinski, over at CD Projekt Red. It's actually really interesting. This is not something that you see every day, but we also have a very interesting roadmap that kinda explains what's going to be happening in the upcoming months and for the rest of 2021, including patch 1.1, patch 1.2, a couple of DLCs, free of course, and finally the free next-gen console update that probably everybody's been waiting for, alongside the other things too, because we will talk about all of that in this video. So let's jump right into it, beginning of course with the video apology right here, which I'm not gonna lie is pretty heartbreaking to look at, because it's obvious that everybody involved in the project put a ton of soul behind this game, and it's such a damn shame to see something as anticipated as this for all of the parties involved to end up in the situation we currently are in. I really hope this wasn't the route for CD Projekt Red, but you know what, they owned to it, they admitted that this was their mistake on their part, and this is also kind of like an explanation and an apology for everything that's been happening surrounding the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. So Marcin Iwinski, just to summarize this 5-minute video really quickly, essentially went in and explained why the game launched in the current state, and it seems that it all boils down to the fact that they tried to bite a little bit more than they could chew, especially when it comes to the visuals. So it seems that a huge emphasis was to make the game look absolutely amazing on the PC, but to make the adjustments a bit later for the consoles and bring everything down to that level. Unfortunately, time has proven that they completely underestimated that task, and essentially it ended up with them constantly trying to improve their streaming system for the old gen of consoles to make it playable and have it run at a proper stable frame rate, which unfortunately is really difficult when you have a city as packed as Night City. So that is one of the explanations, but we do have a roadmap right here which is really interesting, which kind of goes in a bit over a more rough outline of what we should expect from 2021 in terms of content updates from Cyberpunk 2077, because there's no dates right here, which honestly I think it's the much better route. So patch 1.1 and 1.2 should follow sometimes in the next couple of months, so either by February or maybe let's just say even March. It doesn't really explain over here, but by the looks of it, it could start at the end of this month and then jump into February, maybe at the middle of it or again towards the end. And from that point on, after patch 1.2 is when we will get our very first free DLC. Alongside with that, we should get multiple updates and improvements, and all the way up until the end of 2021, by which point we should also have the free next-gen console update, and all of this should make 2021 when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, this also means that the multiplayer mode is probably gonna be a little bit delayed, at least until 2022 from the looks of it, unless things change until then. But let's go over some of the questions that have been answered right here. So why is there such a gap between PC version of Cyberpunk and old gen of consoles? Well, the answer is Cyberpunk 2077 is huge in scope. It features a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems and mechanics. In the game, everything is not stretched out over a flat terrain where we can make things less taxing hardware-wise, but condensed in one big city and in a relatively loading-free environment. We made it even more difficult for ourselves by first wanting to make the game look epic on the PCs and then adjusting it to the consoles, as we explained earlier, especially when it comes to the old gen. That was our core assumption, and things did not look super difficult at first while we knew the hardware gap. Ultimately, time has proven that we've underestimated the task. Another question was, what was the main issue that made development for consoles that difficult? To which we have a pretty interesting answer. So the main culprit was having to constantly improve our in-game streaming system for old gen consoles. Streaming is responsible for feeding the engine with what you see on the screen, as well as the game mechanics. Since the city is so packed and this bandwidth of old gen consoles is what it is, this this is something that constantly challenged us. And yeah, it really seems that they were being held back by old gen hardware. Like this is basically what it seems. It also seems that the engine is not as optimized as they probably wished it was, especially once they added a ton of things on top. But didn't you test old gen consoles to keep tabs on the experience, according to one of the questions? And the answer is yes, we did. As it turned out, our testing did not show many of the issues you experienced while playing the game. And yeah, it seems that as they got closer to launch, they saw significant improvements each and every day, and they really believed they would be able to deliver the final day 0 update and make it all playable. So they probably didn't even have a proper idea of how the game was running on the old gen, which kind of goes hand in hand with a previous statement they made with the fact that the QA teams weren't as able to test the game properly beforehand, since everybody was on lockdown and the play testing was done through servers and not through actual like physically going there and testing the game out. So I guess that makes a little bit of sense, but it still doesn't excuse the state the game is in. On the same note, why was there a gap between the PC and the console reviews? And it explains that they've started sending out PC reviews keys to start the review process in the first week of December. Come December 10, launch day, we had a really good start with PC reviews, and while it's not perfect, this is a version of the game we were and still are very proud of. When it comes to the review process for consoles, at the same time PC codes were sent out, we were still working hard to improve the quality of the game on old gen consoles. Again, as I've said, they were literally improving the game on old gen on the very same day the game already launched. Every extra day that we worked on the day 0 update brought visible improvements. That's why we started sending console codes for reviews on the 8th of December, which was later than we had planned. And holy smokes, that was a little bit too much. What have you done since launch to make the game better? And of course, their top priority since launch has been to fix bugs in Cyberpunk 2077. We have already released 3 hotfixes which have improved the game, but these are just the beginning. And yeah, you already saw that the patch 1.2 and 1.1 were already listed over there, but they also go in and explain that these aren't the only patches arriving. Actually, there's gonna be a regular stream of both small and bigger updates that will, for the most part, will try to focus on bugs and crashes on all of the platforms. So the first update will drop in the next 10 days, and it will be followed by a larger, more significant update in the weeks after that. Our plans for supporting Cyberpunk 2077 in the long term are unchanged, and we will continue to introduce updates and patches to give all players across all consoles and PCs a better experience with the game. Of course, this is all about updates and whatnot. What about DLCs? There's also a question about DLCs, and you have said that there would be a free DLC for the game in early 2021. Will this be impacted by improvements? And yeah, the answer, as it is obvious, the DLCs will probably suffer a bit of a delay, as they will focus on, of course, fixing the game and bringing in those very necessary updates, and they will be releasing a free DLC afterwards. We'll have more to say about that in the coming months, so this is probably gonna get a release date once we're a little bit more in the clear. When can we expect the next gen update for Cyberpunk 2077 is another big question, and for those of you who are playing the game on next gen consoles via backwards compatibility, we are planning the free next gen update for Cyberpunk on Xbox Series consoles and PS5 this very year. We're aiming for the second half of the year, and we'll reveal more when we have more to share. Of course, there's also the talks about when is the game coming back to the PlayStation Store. So we are working on fixes and updates and are working with Sony to bring Cyberpunk back to the PS Store as soon as possible, but again, there's no date being given. And there's a few more questions over there regarding the refunds and of course some other stuff about crunch and whatnot. But this, again, it's a pretty heartbreaking kind of message, but I'm glad that CD Projekt Red came in and just went in straight and honest what happened with it. I much rather see it from the developer's mouth rather than, you know, just seeing it as a form of leak. It also seems to be nice to kind of own up to your mistakes, but again, what's important right now is that they fixed the game. It seems that they're working on it. I'm really glad that in the next 10 days we are getting another patch. Hopefully it's gonna fix everything, and then at least a week after that, or maybe a couple of weeks, another big one that hopefully is going to make things a lot better. But yeah, this is it with the update. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it would be super awesome if you left a comment, subscribed, and left a like on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.